Hi everyone, Simon Keeling here, and it is Sunday, the, what is it, of September, the 9th. It's the 9th of September today, just in case you didn't know, it's the same all day. Thanks again for watching weatherweb.net. As always, the site's kept free of charge by the adverts you see around the screen, and it's you coming back and viewing the site and using the charts, using the information that's on there, reading the musings, etc., which means that we can put more adverts in front of you, which keeps the site free of charge. So thank you for doing that. I wanted to kick off with something we haven't looked at for some time today, looking at the North Atlantic Oscillation, the NAO. This is a feature that really comes into its own mainly through the winter months. Through the summer it has little bearing and you can take very little from it, but when we're getting into the autumn and the winter months it starts to become more useful, and it's this chart down the bottom here that we're going to be looking at. This is the 14-day forecast of the NAO, and it's from the ensemble model. So what it shows you is the outliers. The two red lines here are the outliers, and then the mean is the blue line running through the middle there, and the spread is the yellow that you can see inside. Now, when the NAO is in a positive phase, that means that we get strong westerly winds coming across the Atlantic. When it's in a negative phase, it hints that conditions aren't going to be too westerly, and generally when it's very negative we get an easterly flow, and through the winter that's one of the signs we look for colder weather on the way. A neutral signal gives you a bit of both. It's difficult to pick much detail from it, and essentially you can see that we're picking up a neutral signal during the next couple of weeks. What we are going to be seeing is kind of it trying to bounce around around this kind of neutral level, but I think it's going to slip positive for a time this week before going back more negative as we head into the weekend. The model's having some difficulty with dealing with how conditions look at the weekend. This is an interesting one as well that we haven't seen for some time. This is the sea surface temperature anomalies from the 6th of September, and here's the British Isles. Interesting to see, look, most of the Atlantic is warm, but just look at this cooler pool of water that's set out there off the western parts of the UK, this cooler pool here. And what we tend to find is that under this, with this cooler water at the surface, you tend to find more stable conditions because you haven't got such a contrast between heat at the surface and cooler air at upper levels. So this is quite an interesting patch of cool water, and again cooler water tends to come into its own during the winter months. But let's just have a look back at well, let's take a look at May and take a look at what the sea surface temperatures were like during May, and you can see the change there, where most of the Atlantic, look, we've seen a complete flip. The central parts of the Atlantic were above normal, whereas the areas surrounding the Atlantic coast were below normal. So we've seen this complete flip in conditions, and in fact, of course, we've gone from very unsettled weather at the beginning of the summer and into the first part of the summer to more settled conditions. Yeah, more settled, but settled is a relative term, isn't it? Settled compared to what we had before during the latter half of the summer as these sea surface temperatures have flipped. So this is something we've got to be watching as well, because really you've got to think that the whole of the globe has an energy budget. There's only so much energy available that comes in from the sun. So although you might think, oh well, conditions out here in the Pacific really aren't going to be affecting us, or in the Indian Ocean, actually all of it has an impact. It's all cycles within cycles, so you have to keep your eye across sea surface temperatures across the globe in order to be making some predictions, and we'll be watching closely as we go through the next few months as to how things develop. Okay, so on to the charts for the coming days, and this is the chart from the ensemble, from the GFS ensemble for 7 o'clock this evening. Low pressure up towards the north of Scotland, bringing some outbreaks of rain for western Scotland and parts of Ireland as this front moves its way eastwards. I think during the course of tonight and into tomorrow, the front really becomes stuck through the Irish Sea and parts of southern Scotland and northern England for a time. However, although it'll only be a weak feature during the morning, you can see what's happening here. Look, later on in the day it becomes a much stronger feature. It engages with its upper trough, and we tend to find some warmer conditions at the surface getting in, and that means that this area of rain gets pepped up, so it turns heavier as it comes eastwards, and the result of that is we could find some pretty heavy and thundery rain, not lasting for very long, but moving its way eastwards through England and Wales during the course of the night on Monday into Tuesday. Following behind for Tuesday, we've got a weak ridge of high pressure, so there'll still be some showers around western coast, but for many I think Tuesday's going to be a brighter, much cooler day than we've been used to of late. Then we need to watch for another area of rain, look, coming across northern parts of the country, Ireland through Scotland, as we head in towards Wednesday morning. Strong winds down towards the south as well, and that little area of low pressure zips across the country during Wednesday, and I think that could bring quite a wet day or wet afternoon to parts of southern England and also Wales. Should be some brighter weather spreading through Scotland, northern England, Wales and southwest England, as well as Northern Ireland, I think during the course of the afternoon on Wednesday, and turning cooler as well. And then a weak ridge, look, building in once again. So for Thursday we've got the ridge of high pressure across us. I do think though it will be a very windy day. You can see how close together the isobars are here. Gales in the north and also the west, and I think we'll find rain throughout the day as well across Scotland. Some of that could be heavy, particularly around western coasts and hills. And then overnight into Friday, well, we find the rain gradually clearing away as the flow turns more into the northwest. So through Friday itself, most of the country is dry. Yes, there'll be some drizzle for northern and western parts of Scotland, may even be a little bit down these western coasts, but generally I think Friday is an improving sort of day, and we'll find some bright spells coming through too. Now into the weekend, into Saturday, ridge of high pressure builds in, and this is the interesting thing for the weekend, has been deciding what went on here. The ECMWF and also the GFS have consistently built in this ridge of high pressure, or sorry, the ECMWF has consistently built in this ridge of high pressure. GFS was a little slower to cotton on, but it's got it in there now, and it's trying to get it built across the south of the country into the early part of next week. And look, it slips eastwards and then it brings in this southerly flow. This is the chart for a week on Monday. So this southerly flow would bring a return to warmer conditions, and you see how the high slips its way eastwards, and we stay in that across the south of the country, bringing dry conditions here well into the week after next, before we see a breakdown into a more westerly flow. Now that idea towards the end of the week, this idea of the breakdown to a more westerly flow, certainly looks believable. So I think that's what we're going to go with at the moment. The idea that probably we'll find high pressure building across much of England, Wales and Southern Ireland during this weekend. I think we'll find that that persists for a time into the early part of the week, and then we're going to find... And then the highs in through the weekend. Excuse the weather wolf barking in the background there, won't you? And then the highs in into the weekend and into the beginning of the week after next. But I do think we need to look for this breakdown coming through. Probably 22nd, 23rd. I think it may be delayed though. I think we're going to look at the 25th for a breakdown into more unsettled conditions. So we may get this window in from between about the 17th to about the 24th or the 25th of dry weather again. Most of it for England, Wales and Southern Ireland. Still some rain across Scotland, but I think even there it could become dry and it will be warm too. So thanks again for watching. Keep the sun shining, and don't forget we're all kept free of charge by the adverts you see around the screen here. Don't forget to tell your friends about the site, and keep the sun shining. Bye for now.